2 years of fighting, 2 years of advocating, the release of the body cam has finally occurred. Now, we are disturbed by some of the editing in the body cam. Both myself and Attorney Howard, as well as members of the Cullins family, have seen the body cam, both initially when it was shared with the NAACP, where it was edited, and then again when they was shared several months later with the family and of course the NAACP and their legal counsel, where it was again edited, and then this current release where it has again been edited, slowed down in pieces to emphasize the police's narrative of what happened. Let's be clear. The entire unedited body cam and the entire unedited surveillance footage, as well as the 911 calls, paint a clear picture of what happened to Nigel Cullins on May the 18th.
The body camera video was edited for one reason, so that you, the public, come to the conclusion that the shooting of Nigel Cullins was justified. It was not. So what did they not release yesterday? Did you hear the 911 call where Nigel Cullins' mother was begging for medical assistance because her son was going through a mental health crisis? Did they tell you it took around 2 hours for them to respond and by that time he had left the location? They released 911 calls where the restaurant tells law enforcement that there's an armed black man with gold teeth in the restaurant who has yelled at patrons, shoved a bartender out of the way, and who did not pay for his food. At what point in the video did you see Nigel push the bartender away? Nigel, as an invitee and patron, was still eating his food when the police arrived, so how can you say he isn't paying for his food? At what point is he yelling at patrons in the restaurant? Or is he simply eating his food, scrolling through his phone, and casually talking to people who are in his vicinity? And why are the employees of the restaurant describing Nigel to the police as a black man acting strange with gold teeth instead of Nigel, our former coworker? He was an employee at this exact restaurant weeks before the incident, yet they are all acting like they don't know who he is. How many times do we have to see folks lying to the police that a black man has committed a crime when he has not? We have to hold these folks responsible or it will keep happening, and we have to change the narrative. That was clearly demonstrated by law enforcement when they released this edited video. And why was Nigel Cullins tased when he immediately submitted himself to law enforcement by getting on the ground with his hands up? Should a black man not run away from that situation with law enforcement when he has done nothing wrong and is tased? And at what point are we going to treat mental health the way it should be treated? To give people the help they need when they need it and by the appropriate personnel? And why does it take over 2 years for the city to complete its investigation so the DA's office can then review the case, because they have to wait until it's over, for possible prosecution? The real truth is that the restaurant and the city of Atlanta failed Nigel Cullins, and editing a video won't be enough to hide this truth.
I didn't get sleep last night. To see your son afraid whenever he's approached by law enforcement, there to hopefully serve him and bow down and be scared. That's all I keep seeing in my head, is his hands up, afraid, and running for his life. I do believe if my son would have made it outside that door, he'd still be here. But unfortunately, the security guard tackled him, and then everything else happens. And to see your son lifeless, I said I wasn't gonna cry today, man, but to see your son lifeless, his arms dangling. That's not how you want to remember your son. His last moments, his last breath. And then you come 10 minutes later and try to resuscitate him? You take your time to resuscitate him? Like who? Who want to see their child brutally murdered? Because that's what it was. They really murdered my child. He was a good kid. Yes, everybody. I'm sure some of y'all. We deal with mental health issues, whether it's depression, whatever it is. He was battling some stuff.
Didn't deserve
He
to
didn't
die.
deserve it. He did not deserve it. He was a good kid. He was so afraid of law enforcement. He respected the fact. Anytime he got in trouble, not any trouble, but if he even got pulled over with a
Speeding ticket.
he calls us immediately on FaceTime, afraid, so we can see what's going on. So whenever they walked up on him, y'all saw it. Saw how scared he was. He bowed down immediately and was afraid. All that they had to do was go over and talk to him. It seemed like they just came in there forcibly trying to get him. They didn't talk to him and ask him could they come and talk to him, take him outside and talk to him, pull him away from it. No, they went in guns blazing basically, and that wasn't right.
My response to Atlanta police is your job is to respond and report, not weave a narrative. If it in fact happened the way you say it happens, don't edit the tape. Let the tape speak for itself. Let the tape play in real time. Let all of the surveillance footage play instead of the body cam, and you'll get a full picture. Let the witnesses speak, and stop trying to weave a narrative that is contrary to what happened.
The 911 calls by the restaurant, lying, saying that he had committed a crime of violence to law enforcement before law enforcement arrived. The fact that he was tased when he had got on the ground with his hands up, even before, right when the law enforcement walks in, he gets down and puts his hands up, and he was still tased. So to answer your question, what I would like for you and the public to look at is how, and the 2 hours it took for them to get there to address the mental health situation. All these things happening, how did we get to the point where Nigel is being tackled by security? How did we get to the point where he's being tased when he didn't do anything wrong, and now he's scared and he believes he's running for his life? Like, how did we get there? And I know with the circling of the firearm that that is an intentional act to say this man is walking with a gun, he's a danger, he's running with a gun in a restaurant, we have to eliminate the threat. I understand that's why the gun is being circled. But what I would ask the public and what I would ask everybody to really think about is, how did we get to this point where Nigel, because hours ago she called asking for help, how did we get to the point where he's being tackled by security and then fired upon and dead?